Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So we got some exciting stuff. So lots been going on, which is really good. Some new developments, in the property arena, and I think people are pivoting. They're really kind of you know, just adjusting to the interest rate changes and things like that. So
Yeah.
this is people are looking for, have a different appetite. Have a different appetite now for certain deals, but they're still hungry. They're still hungry. They still want things to happen. So it's just a question of us finding the right things for them and satisfying that appetite for them. So that's really
Absolutely.
cool. All right, wonderful. Yes. Good evening, Emily. How are you? You okay?
I'm all right. Yep.
Okay, wonderful.
Emily.
Wonderful. Okay. Yeah, we've had a few new people join. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to join us today because they're quite busy, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll do the training nevertheless, and I'll record it and share it with everybody as I do. But yeah, this is going to be quite exciting times ahead. Exciting times ahead. We'll be able to pivot according to what's happening. So what's been happening with you guys? Anything new?
Nothing
Yeah,
really.
just pushing forward, really, just trying to make connections. And had a few kind of things being sent my way, a few property opportunities being sent my way. So yeah, just trying to work out which is a deal and which isn't.
Absolutely.
As you know. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes, indeed. Good evening, Vasola. Nice to see you today. People just logging in and joining, that's fine. Yeah, it is really, and thank you so much for posting this question, because this whole training is really based on your question. Your question, how do we recognize deals? How do we actually, know what is a deal? Because I know it's something that I do naturally, because I can look at something and within, I don't know, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, I can kind of say, nah, it's no good, oh, it's okay. So you guys need to just find a way of being able to look at a property or a deal and see, yeah, there's potentially a deal here, and it's worth even investigating a bit further. It's worth going and delving in a little bit deeper, so you can think, you could see if it's actually worth your time. Because a lot of people just, they hand you stuff, and if you don't know how to look at it, you might think it's a deal initially, like that deal that you were looking at earlier on, the one that you shared with me. You found out it was only 5 point something % ROI. It automatically spoke for itself. It's like, okay, 5 point something. If I went to an investor with 5 point something ROI with the interest rate at 6 point something, he's going to say, no, thank you very much. So these are the little things, the little telltale signs that we can learn to use. And I've put the training together for that basis, so that we'll be able to quickly identify, is it worth even looking any further or not? And this is really helpful because, for example, if you're speaking to agents or you're speaking to potential property sellers, straight away you can kind of say, where is this going to fit? Where can I position this type of, is it a deal really? Or am I wasting time here? Or can we really go somewhere with that? Because you don't want to waste time. Time is really valuable. So you need to kind of have a good idea, a good angle on it. So yeah, good. So thank you very much for posting that. And that's really, I based the training on your good questions. So I'm sure other people have the similar kind of questions as well, thinking, oh yes, that's a question I'd like the answer to as well. So yeah, it's good material for people to look into. 7:37. Okay, I think we're gonna get started. Anyone else comes in, they can just join or catch up. Otherwise, we may not be able to clear all the material. So I'm going to open the presentation and then I'll start presenting. Here we go. My field. Yeah. Close that drive. Slideshow on. Good. And then I let me share my screen. Oh, it's not this. I'll switch my screens around. Yeah, screen. There. Okay. Right. So property deal secrets. That's what we've got here. We've got property deal secrets, and let's get started straight away. Let's get into it. So this is how we're going to recognize the different property deal opportunities. So this is how, if anyone comes in and say they want to sell a property to us, an agent comes and says, oh, I've got this potential deal, or a seller comes and says, oh, I'm trying to sell my property. These are the different ways that we're going to look at how we can approach seeing if there's actually a deal worth our time and effort to go into it. So let's go into this. So first of all, we're going to look at determining the area. The first thing is the area. We want to find out what type of area is it. So the first thing you do is you identify the area you're interested in and research the local property market. So your research, you want to know a little bit of what's going on. Just very quickly, you can literally do a Google. You can say Google and tell me what's happening in Luton, or what's this area famous for, that sort of thing. Just a quick research on that local area. Most of the time, you guys are working in areas that you're already familiar with. So you should already know this answer if you're already working in an area. But say, for example, an agent or someone contacts you and say, oh, I've got this thing in Fulham, I've got this thing in Watford, I've got this thing in in an area that you may or may not know, then you need to just identify a few things. We're going to go through some of those things. And if there's any questions, guys, if you can either pop the questions in the chat if you can't talk, or please raise your hand and ask the question when we get to the end, so that we can cover all your questions. But there's going to be some questions as we go along, but just if you can make a note of those questions, that'd be great. So check the property supply and demand. Supply and demand, you're looking at the rental rates, you're looking at the property value. So have an idea, go to Rightmove and go to Zoopla. So at Rightmove, you'll be able to get an idea quickly of what the sales prices are, what they're selling for, but look at what they've sold for, the sold prices. So once you identify the sold prices, and also look at the frequency of sales, you can do this literally in 1 minute. You go there, click on it, put the postcode in that area, and look, are properties being sold, or are they still for sale, for sale, for sale? This will give you an idea. Is it a hot area? Is it hot for selling? Do those type of properties sell quickly in that area, or are they still sitting around and they're for sale? So the quick way of doing this is, when you look at it, if the properties are in good condition and the prices are kind of similar to the prices of the ones that have sold and it's still sitting there, then there's a problem. Either the market is stagnated, it's leveled off a little bit, or people are just not buying in that area at the moment. So this is key to your research. For example, we were doing some property searches in not Nottingham, where was it? Coventry. In Coventry, we were sourcing for a client in Coventry, and literally every 10, 15 minutes, the properties were being sold. So we'd find a property, we'd say, right, this is great. We'll give the property details to the investor, to the person that's potentially buying it. By the time we get back to the agent, it's gone. It was that hot. So you just need to establish and find out how hot that area is, because you're going to know from determining that if it's, if you do get a property in that area, can you sell it quickly? So yeah, that's what you need to do. So check the supply and demand, the rental prices as well. And the rental, look at the let. Are the properties let as well? Have they been let, or are they to let? So once you've seen a letting and they're selling, then you know that's a very lucrative and high demand area. Okay. So then the next thing is to look at the property condition. So you want to consider the condition, and the reason why you want to do check the condition is you want to look at, does it need major repairs or renovations? Does it have structural damage? Is there plumbing issues? Is there electrical issues? Because these will give you the telltale signs of, we're going to go into the different areas of where these particular criteria you're looking at. But these type of things would be more suited to an investor on a BMV, for example, but we're going to go into all that. a below market value purchase, because they've got the opportunity to add value or to fix those problems and to increase the value of the property. So look out for any major repairs, renovations, structural damages, whether it's plumbing or electrical issues. Okay. Next thing you want to do is you want to look at, you want to identify the target tenant market. So you want to see what type of tenants are in that area. So identify the tenant market. So consider who the tenants are and who that market is for. So for example, a family or young professional, students or holiday makers or business travelers. These will obviously suit different types of demographic. So the demographic in that area, you can Google this. You could say, what is the most popular properties in a particular area? Is it more suited for young professionals? Is it more suited for students? Is it more suited for holiday makers, etc.? You will see these little criterias. These criterias would tell you what type of property we're looking for. So holiday makers, for example, might be service accommodation. Students might be where the properties that are near universities, things like that. But I'll explain that again. We're just doing the fundamentals first so that you can identify these things first, just instantly. In a few moments, you can find out these things and know what type of deal this would suit. Okay. So now we're going to look at the different areas now. Now we've covered the kind of fundamentals, the basis. Now we're going to look at what makes these type of properties suit these type of deals. So if we're looking at a rent-to-rent deal, we're looking at what is rent-to-rent. When rent-to-rent, just to remind people that are not familiar with it, is when a landlord gives a property to someone who will rent it out to tenants, and you're going to rent it from that landlord and rent it for a higher price and make your profit from renting it higher. So you need to identify the type of properties that would suit this type of strategy. Is you need large houses, large family houses, or houses near a university. The ones near a university, students will share. They will share. They'll be happy to share that property without you even having to go into HMO, etc. They would be happy to share. So you're looking for large houses, large homes near a university, or large homes with good amenities, etc. So those will suit the rent-to-rent market. Okay, let's look at the next one. HMO. So HMO is another one that you could be considering. What will be a HMO deal? A HMO deal is where you have multiple occupation, where there's 3 or more unrelated tenants which will share that property and facilities, and that is specifically created for an HMO strategy. So this again suits large houses, but particularly when they have many bedrooms. So it could be 5-bedroom house, because they say when you have a HMO, your 5th bedroom is your profit. So you have 5 bedrooms and a sizable lounge, or 5 bedrooms and maybe 2 lounges, or a lounge that you can cut into 2. So you look at the house and think, can we convert this into, are the rooms sizable enough for us to put, to split them up into HMO, and then is a communal area big enough to share for those HMO occupants. So as I was saying, you need to look at the house, look at the area as well. Look at the area. Remember, we talked about the areas earlier on. Look at the area. Is there high demand for smaller units? Is there high demand for letting? Is there high demand for letting? So you've gone to your Rightmove or your Zoopla, and you've looked and it says let. There's nothing letting. So you can see if there's nothing letting, there's a high demand. If there's a high demand and you've got HMO, it's likely that you'll easily let that property. So these are the things that you need to look for to give you the telltale signs to see if a deal can be made from a HMO product. So let's look at service accommodation now. So service accommodation, what is service accommodation for those that don't know, is a short-term rental for travelers, including holiday rentals and business travelers. These people might be contractors, they're doing contract work and they're looking for somewhere short to stay. They don't want to stay for 6 months or 9 months or 12-month contract with a normal AST, assured short hold tenancy. They just want a short term. They might be staying there for 1 week They might be doing a little bit of contracting work. Maybe they're fitting windows in a building or doing a particular job in a building where they have to stay for a period of time and then they move on. So those type of things would suit service accommodation. They like a place that's not as expensive as a hotel, but as comfortable as a hotel, with the flexibility of doing their own things as well. They've got their little kitchenette area so they can cook food, their own type of food, and have that flexibility and freedom to do what they need to do in that place. And they will pay actually more than, you know, they will pay for letting a property because of the flexibility that it's given. So these things, to identify those type of properties, the ones that will work are apartments in touristy areas or business districts. So the touristy areas, you can look up good tourist attractions in X, tourist attractions in Plymouth, tourist attractions in Coventry, tourist attractions in. So any area that someone comes to give you as a potential deal, you can quickly do this. Tourist areas in that particular area, see if there's a demand. Is there a demand? Are there any tourist attractions in that area? Does it have a nice beach? Does it have a fountain, a waterfall, mountains? Is there something that's going to attract tourism there so that you can, you know, potentially use that property as a service accommodation? So it's got to tick these boxes: near transport, good amenities, tourist attractions around that area, and also from a business point of view, is it near to? It's got to be near to train and perhaps even the airport. Things like that will be good for business users. So once it ticks all those boxes, you're getting an idea of the type of things you're looking for to suit the type of deal. And that's why earlier on, I think it was perhaps the tail end of last year, I started telling you guys about choosing your strategies, because when you choose your strategies, you have a rough idea of what you're going to be focused on, and anything else you will package and give to someone else. So you might say, for example, you're doing deal packaging, you're doing rent to rent, and you're doing BMV or below market value properties. So you're focused on those three type of strategies. Anything else comes, you will know what to do with it, because, you know, we've given you the tools to work it out, but you don't have to do it. So you package it and give it to someone else to do. It doesn't mean you're giving it to someone else because it's not a deal. It's just, it's not for you, because it might not tick all your boxes. For example, you might get a service accommodation that's out of your area. You want to do it, but it's out of your area, but you want to be able to manage it easily. So you want something close. So it's a nice deal, but it's just in the wrong area. You package it and give it off to another investor. So once you know these type of the nuances behind finding out, you know, what property goes for what type of house or what type of accommodation goes for a particular strategy, you can apply that. Okay, so I'm going to move on to deal packaging. So deal packaging, what is deal packaging? For those, just as a reminder, is when a property is sourced for an investor, is packaged, and all the due diligence has been done, and it's given on to an investor for a fee. So that's what they do. That's what deal packaging is. So the type of properties that this works for is you want to take advantage of low prices. So it might be that the seller is trying to sell it at a discount. It might be that there's a possibility to add value. So when you get a property, you could say, for example, is it a end of terrace? Can I add can I add a building on the side? Can I extend on the side? Can I extend backwards? Can I put a attic on the top or loft on the top? These are ways that you can extend the value. Can I split a room into 2 rooms? This is a very simple way of splitting it. But these are the type of things that you can do to add value to the property. And it's not that you are going to add the value, it's that you're going to show the investor the potential that could be added. So for example, you might do a side extension that's going to cost £30,000, and it's going to add another £75,000 to the property, because you're adding another bedroom with an ensuite, and you're extending the kitchen to have you know, conservatory or something like that. So you could add value by showing them, look, if you extend this, you can then you know, add value to the property and refinance. So we use the BRR model, the buy, refurbish, refinance, and recycle, and get the money back out. So we could package that for an investor by just doing a bit of due diligence. It might take you an hour to do that, and then you can give it to an investor. Or if it's in your area and you've got the money, or you've got somebody that might wants to work with you, there might be something you want to do yourself. So once you've got these ideas, you just look at, you get the property, you literally try and pick up the property, take it away from where it is, and look at it as a single, entity. Say to yourself, right, can I, does it have, how many rooms has it got? What condition is it in? Can I extend it? Can I add value to it? Is it in good condition or bad condition? What's the area around it like? Is it near major transport? Is it near a major city? Is it in a tourist area? All of these things, all these factors, when you look at those factors, you can say, okay, so when it ticks certain boxes, you know what you can apply for that type of deal, whether it's going to be buy to let or BMV, whether it's going to be a service accommodation, whether it's going to be a rent to rent, and whether it's going to be deal packaged. Okay. So identify the type of property that could work for this. This will be such as distressed properties. Distressed properties are sometimes, they really have been trashed. For example, being put in bad condition because the previous tenants didn't look after it well, or it's just tired. It's not been renovated for years and years and years. It's extremely tired. It needs some TLC, a lick of paint, new carpet, some plastering, change the windows, new bathroom, new kitchen, that sort of thing. So once you do that sort of transformation to that kind of property, it will add so much value to it that an investor might be interested in buying that to do a flip, for example. They might flip the property, buy it, do the repairs and flip it, or they might buy it, refinance, take their money out, and then rent it out. So these are the type of things you need to be looking for when you're looking at the different strategies that you can apply for different types of deals. So let's look at split into flats. So what is title splitting? Title splitting is when you can identify properties that can be split into flats. So you might have a house. You might, you're looking for properties that can be easily divided or converted. So you might have quite a large house. Sometimes you have houses that have basements as well. So you can have a basement, ground floor, first floor, second floor. And it might be just first floor, go up to the first floor, and then the second floor, you could add perhaps even a loft conversion. So when you start trying to think, just try and think laterally about what could be done with that property. Don't think that, how can I do it? Just think, what would be a dream for that house? Try and put your mind into the property and envision yourself being there, looking around, thinking, we can make this bigger, we can extend that. What would that look like? How would the garden look? You just try and picture what could be done. And then those imaginations or visions can become reality when you're talking about actually getting it done. So it's just a question of getting an architect. The architect will come, he will do the plans, and he'll say, right, this is what we can do. We can split into flat A, flat B, flat C. And it's literally, flats are literally split with partitions. You're doing partitions, you might do a bit of extension, but mainly it's partitions, kitchens and bathrooms. Those are the main things, along with separate utilities, which is separate water and separate electricity. So those things, so that you can have their own consumer unit. Consumer unit is like the fuse box. The consumer unit is the fuse box for the electric. So there might be a bit of work that needs to be done for that, but that could be easily done if you're in a Victorian house and it's quite big, it's quite roomy, and it could be divided easily into separate units. So that's what's called splitting into flats. So you might look and say, okay, you've seen a large house. Do I split it into flats or do I split it into a HMO? So remember I said about the HMO, you want as many rooms as possible. What you can do with the, if you're looking at flats, is you can look at the property to the left, the property to the right, the property on the other side, and just go to EPC register, for example, and see, have there been flats? Are there flats in that area? If there's flats in that area, then it's likely that you'll be able to get planning permission to convert the house that you've got into flats, as long as it's, the size is sizable. So there are telltale things that you can do, but initially you just want to establish, is there a deal here? Is there any flexibility? Is there any value add? Can I add value to this property? Most of the time sellers know these things, but some of the times they don't. They don't have a clue. They just want to sell and get out. They're stuck. They're motivated seller. They're desperate to sell. They may not know the possibilities that that could be done with their property. So you as the investor or you as the sourcer has to establish how you're going to create value. Once you can create the value, someone else will pay you for that creativity in your mind. And that's effectively what you're doing. You're just creating value. Once you create that value, you get paid for that creation of value. And the more you do, the better you get at it, the more experience you get at it, and the more money you make doing it. So that's really what it's about. Okay, split. Have I got any more here? Yeah. Identify the type of property that could work for this, such as a large house or commercial property that can be converted. Okay. I've seen your question pop up. I will address that in a second. I think I might be on questions now. Oh, lease option, then after that. Okay. So I'll do your questions in a second. Please, if you have any questions which you may have, please by all means either write them down or pop them in the chat. It'd be quite easy to do if you pop them in the chat, then I can talk through them. So I'm just going to go into the lease option now. So what is the lease option deal? This is when a buyer has an option to purchase a property, and it's not an obligation, it's an option. So you've got almost like the opportunity to buy that property at a set price in a certain time in the future. It might be 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, etc. So this is what the option is. But the beauty of the option is obviously if you can fix the price now. You fix the price now for a future purchase, and you're banking on the price going up. Generally, every 10 years, a property doubles in value, generally. So in 5 years, you could say roughly it will go by half, maybe. Depends, some areas are faster than others. So that's the idea of having a lease option. A lease option, you don't have to commit to purchasing the property, but you can do creative things with that property in the time that you have it. Okay, so identify the type of property that would work for this deal. This would be such as property with low market demand. So the demand might be low now, and the properties that need repair or are in negative equity. So it might be that they can't afford to do the repair. So the price is low, but the price is close to the market price. So instead of you saying no, writing it off and say, oh, this is not going to work because they want the market price and it needs work, you can work with them and say, all right, then I can give you this price, but this price is going to be in 3 years or 5 years time. In the meantime, you or the person that you sell it on to will do the repair and then put a tenant buyer in there. The tenant buyer will go in there, live in there, and look after the place as if it's their own. So these are the benefits of doing it that way. And these are some of the structures you can do. There's some telltale signs that will, tell you that this can work for this type of strategy, and the other things can work for other strategies. So for the lease option, the main thing you're looking for is either negative equity. Well, mainly it's negative equity. Negative equity means that the property, what they owe on the property is more than what the value is. So they're trying to sell the property to pay back what they owe, but it may be that they borrowed too much on that property and no one wants to buy it because it's overpriced. Sometimes this happens with new builds as well. If you buy a new build after a year and you try to sell it, new build, you have to wait for it to catch up, because when you buy a new build, it's overpriced in the first place because it's brand new. So when it's 1 year old, it's not brand new anymore. So when you try to sell it as if it was a new build, it doesn't sell, you're in negative equity if you sell it. So these are the little things that you can do. So you could go and structure a deal with somebody that had a new build that got fed up with it, for example, and then you can turn that into a service accommodation, for example. So that's why I try to give you guys all the tools so that you can say, oh, wait, this can work. You can do 2 strategies with this. You can do 3 strategies. You can do 4. So don't ever think that one strategy fits everything. It could be a combination, it could be a hybrid. Just the same way everyone is working from home and going to work at the same time, they're hybriding now. So we can do hybrid with properties, the same type of thing. Okay. All right. So I think this is the last one now. Yeah, commercial to residential conversion. So how to identify properties that can be converted from commercial to residential. This is the most lucrative, and the reason is because commercial property is cheaper to purchase as commercial than compared to residential. When you convert it to residential, it multiplies it by about 3 times its value per square foot. So you're looking for commercial properties that can be converted into residential, and to identify those, you need to look for properties that are in central locations. It might be city centers, for example, or areas that have high demand of residential properties. So as I said earlier on, if you go and look on Rightmove, for example, you see that there's a high demand for properties because you've seen sold, or let, and you don't see any stock. They have no stock. They haven't got any property stock. That means they're desperate for stock. So if you can convert a commercial into a residential in that same area, you're likely to either sell it or rent it out quite easily because there's a demand there. So these are the things that you need to look for. With commercial, I would recommend that you get commercial properties that have not been converted to residential because it's easier to do and there's more money to make in doing that. Okay, I think that is it. Yep, we're going to open for questions, and I will stop the share. Where am I? Yeah, let me stop the share and I'll open the question section. And let's see what you are asking. Roughly how long would planning permission take for a title split? That's a good question. It does depend on the borough, for starters. Different boroughs have different criteria. Some are more strict than others, but depending on actually what needs to be done. For example, if you're only doing the legal work and just doing partitions inside, so say, for example, the house is big enough to just literally put partition walls, put the bathroom in there, put the kitchen in there, put the consumer units, which will give you the separate electricity, put the water supply, which gives you a separate water supply. That usually, the water supply and electricity will take you probably about 3 months. That takes a while to do. The paperwork for the work in the council could take maybe another 3 months. So you would literally have to start, because you have to apply for planning. You do the planning, and then once depending on how fast that borough works, would depend, because they will send out a planning consultant. The person will come out. They will have a look at the job that you're doing, and then they will talk you through and go through it with you. And they say, right, we have another appointment at this time. You need to do this by that date. Then they come again. And since COVID, it's slowed down a lot. But generally speaking, it could just take a few months to do. It's not a the biggest thing that's going to take the longest time is the utilities and the survey, because the surveyor has to come and he has to go through, but the actual work doesn't take too long to do. So I would say probably between 3 and 6 months if you're going to do, depend on how much other work you've got to do. So it doesn't take too long to do. It's something that can be done quite quickly. It doesn't take a major lot of time, and it does depend if you've got any, any major external work to do, like extensions, loft extension, side extensions, add in conservatories and things like that. Depend. Usually you should try to get the house big enough so you can literally split it internally. When you do it internally, the big, as I said, the biggest things would just be your electricity and your utilities coming into the building, which doesn't take too long to do. So yeah, it really does depend. I've had clients work on properties like that, and it's taken them 18 months, but they've done major work. I'm talking, they've built another house literally on the side of the house. So that's, those things take time. They have to check and make sure everything is done properly. The foundations are done properly. They have to check all these things before they give it the sign off so they can move to the next stage. So yeah, it takes time. But yeah, good question. Good question indeed. Does anyone else have another question they would like to ask regarding? I've done a lot of talking. I just need you guys to do some talking now. Just no question is silly or ridiculous. Please go ahead and ask your questions. And I just want to say good evening to Louisa has joined us. Good evening. Good evening, Genevieve. Good evening, Basola. And I think I saw George, but I'm not sure. Is he here, or is he come on?
I think he's gone.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So good evening, George, on the replay. Alrighty. So it looks like everybody's doing something because I've got black screens everywhere. I've got black screens everywhere. If anyone could, if anyone wants to unmute and ask a question, please do not feel shy. You can ask the question now. Now is a good time to ask. Please don't wait until we hang up the phone and you start calling me and asking me the question, because you can ask me now. I'm here. This is it. We're live now. And don't be shy or embarrassed. No question is, every question is a good question. If not, James, I'm sure you have more questions. You're going to utilize my time here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the lease option. So in terms of the benefit for the seller, I know you mentioned about negative equity. I'm just trying to think it through in terms of, you know, if you meet somebody who is potentially selling a property and you can kind of get a sense that you could do a lease option on it, what would be the benefits for them
Yes.
aside from the, you know, if they didn't have negative equity necessarily,
Very
but
good. Brilliant question. Brilliant question. So usually with lease options, what the benefit, mainly the pain point, because remember, we're looking for motivated sellers. Motivated seller is someone that wants to sell their property and they've got some pain. There's something that's paining them. So it may be that they just want to get rid of the property because it might have been causing them. They might be a tired landlord, for example. I've had enough of this. I can't do this anymore. I'm tired. I'm fed up. I just want to go. I want to go back, live abroad. I'm out of this. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm finished. My years are done with this property game, and it happens. So they have the surety that you're going to buy that property. That's what's in it for them. They have the surety you're going to buy the property. They have the surety you're going to look after it. They have the surety that their mortgage is going to be paid while they're away. They could be abroad, for example, but everything's going to be taken care of while they're away. So they don't even have to worry about it. And it's done legally with a solicitor. So you can't steal the house because it's still under their name. So you're just going to almost have what we call a power of attorney. You'll have power of attorney on that property, but you don't own it until the deeds are transferred when the sale is actually taken care of. So that's the main thing. The main thing is they don't have that problem anymore. The headache's gone. They don't have to worry about sorting out the mortgage every month. They don't have to worry about looking after the property. They don't have to worry about maintenance. They don't have to worry about any of those things. You take all those on board. Now for you, the benefit for you is that number one, you've fixed the price. So let me use some figures, for example. Let's say they bought a property at 500, they wanted to sell their property for £500,000, but the properties are only worth 450 now. So the first thing is the first benefit they're getting a guaranteed sale at 500K. So that's 50K more than the market is saying. But you're going to purchase that property in 5 years' time. In 5 years' time, there's nowhere on this planet that it should still be 450. It must go up by at least 200K or so. So your benefit is that you're going to wait and get that increase. The second thing that you do is that you will find a tenant buyer. So a tenant buyer is someone that has money, but they haven't got the status to get the property. So it might be the electrician, the plumber, the new person that's just started a business. So they haven't got what's called an SA 302. The SA 302 is what's needed when you start a business to have that document from HMRC to say that you've paid tax. To pay that tax, you have to do everything officially through your business and through HMRC. It takes time. So they are not in a position, they've got money, but they're not in a position to get a mortgage. So this is an ideal opportunity for them to get on the ladder and get a property. Instead of them throwing their money away at rent, they're putting their money into a property that they're going to buy. So what will happen now is you say to them, okay, you can buy this property in 5 years' time for 600,000. So straight away you've made 100K. But you haven't got it instantly, but you've agreed with them that they're going to buy it in 5 years' time for 600,000. So you've got 100 grand now in your mind. So what you would do now is you would work out with them and say, all right, then we need you to pay a deposit. So the tenant buyer will pay a deposit, which you can cut in half and give half to the seller. So he's got something or she's got something to start with. So it might be 50 grand or something. So you give them 25 grand, you've got 25 grand. So you've got 25 grand. You can take that 25 grand off your 100. So now you're only looking for 75 on the end, on the other side, but you've got 25 up front. Then they will now pay what we call hyper rent. The hyper rent is money off the money they owe you. They owe you 75 grand now. There's 75 grand. So you're going to increase the money that they're paying you to cover that 75K. So you're going to be getting that money, getting that money, getting that money. And then you're paying the seller rent, or you're paying the seller's mortgage.
Mortgage payments.
So the seller's mortgage, he might be getting, or she might be getting more because you're getting more. So you go, oh, here you go, you give them more. So that's a benefit for them. So they don't have to worry about the property. They don't have to worry about the repair. They've got a guaranteed sale at an agreed price. You're managing the property for them. You're even giving them more money, and everybody's happy. The Buyer is happy because they're not buying the place until 5 years. They're going to get organized themselves and get themselves, correct with all their paperwork. In 5 years, they get a mortgage now, and they will mortgage that property for 700K. So you've only, do you see what I mean? So it's happy days for them because they're making money on the other side. So they're like, hey, I'm making money on the other side. You're making money in the middle. The sellers got a deal and it's out of their mind. They don't have to worry about it. And what you tend to find is that most landlords that have got a portfolio have one of these. They have one of these problems in their portfolio. It's always one of them in their portfolio, and they wish they didn't have it. Is, oh, it was a poor purchase decision. It was just, it didn't work. The numbers didn't work. It was a new build and I paid too much for it. There's always a reason. And most landlords won't tell you they've got many properties. They'll tell you they've only got one. So once you fix one problem, they will bring you some other properties or refer you to people that have got other properties as well. So you do your best to look after them and make sure it's fair as well. We're not ripping anyone off. We're just doing business, making sure it's fair, making sure they're sorted, making sure you're sorted, making sure the tenant buyer's sorted. Everyone's happy. Once everyone's happy, it's happy days. Our mission is not, oh, we're just making money. Our mission is to solve the problem first, and then we make the profit after. That's the reason why people will go for a lease option. So, but a lease option takes careful construction. You can't rush and go, you need a lease option. People are like, oh, what are you talking about? They want to understand what it is. You have to gently speak to them, explain to them it's all done with a solicitor. You don't own the house at all. You can't steal the house. You can't, it's not your house, it's your house. We're just looking after it for you until 5 years when we buy it, or when our tenant buyer buys it. So once they understand, once you explain it to them, they will understand and say, okay, that makes sense to them. That makes sense to me. And it might be this type of thing could take a month to structure, because you might have to go back and forth. They're going to have questions. They might bring family members. They're going up and down. They're having meetings with you. They're meeting with a solicitor. They've got questions. They've got questions. They've got questions. And then, okay, they're comfortable, because there's a big commitment. If you're taking £500,000 property off somebody, they need to be sure that they want to go ahead and do it. So once they're comfortable, they will go. They'll go forward. They'll go forward with it. And that's the reason why someone will take a lease option. They're stuck. They're stuck. They're at a place where they can't turn left or right. They can't go back. They want, it's a albatross around their neck. They want out. They don't want to see it anymore. It's like, I don't want to know about this property anymore. And it could be several reasons. It could be a probate. It could be that their relative passed away there, for example, and they just don't want to be there. It's like, oh, it brings me out too much memories. I just want, I want to sell it. They've gone to put it on the market, but the market has commanded a certain amount and they've over mortgaged their property, for example. So they can't sell it for less because it's owed. That money's owed. So they have to sit on it. So that's the kind of scenarios you're looking for. Probate, you're looking for equity, where the equity, they've, pulled all the equity out of it and there's no equity left. They're trying to sell it too high. It needs some work. It could be dated, like the probates, they're dated. They need some work doing and things like that. And then also you got to remember the assisted sell. The assisted sell can come in here as well, where we assist them to bring it to a good standard and sell it and take money off on the other side. But you have to be very careful how you structure that deal, because it's better if you say, give them a fixed price and say, right, we're going to buy it off you for 550. And then whatever you sell above the 550, you keep, because if not, they're going to keep nibbling. They're going to keep saying, well, you got 675. I want half of that. I want more of that. So you just agree with them on a price, fix the property to the condition it needs to be fixed as cost effective as possible, get a buyer in there, get it sold and get them sorted that way. So there's different ways of looking at these things, but I just want you guys to be thinking of, when you see a property, what can be done with it? What's the problem? Always, never, ever, ever start with the property. Start with the problem. What is the seller's problem? Even though they're going to want to talk to you about the property, deep down, you want to find out what's their problem, what's biting them, what's their pain, what is it that's really troubling them, what's keeping them up at night. That's what you need to focus on. When you solve that, then the deal will come out of it, because you'll present it to them in such a way that they'll be, yeah, this person understands my pain and they're going to take that pain away from me. You're giving them that pill that solves that problem. That's what it's really about. Okay, I've had a couple other, good evening, Louisa. Yes, good evening to you. I just saw the message, the chat. So those are the things. So the main thing is look for problems. So anytime anyone says, oh, they're selling their property, the first question you're going to ask them is, why? Why? When you know why, then you know how. Once you know why, then you know how you're going to your next move. Because you need to know why they're selling. Why are they selling and why have they not gone to an agent? These are the questions that ring bells. As soon as someone says, oh, I want to sell my property. So you've not gone to an agent. So then they tell you, oh, because I want to sell it fast. Oh, I want to immigrate. Oh, I want to move out of the country. Oh, it was someone used to live there that, I don't want the memories. Oh, it's flood damage, it's fire damage, something's happened. Oh, it's haunted. All sorts of things come out. And you need to know these things, because if you go in with your blinkers on, you're not going to see anything. And then later on, you'll find out why. Like, oh, that's why they're trying to sell. You need to know these things in advance, so it's not a surprise later. So yeah, I hope that helps.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? You guys are very quiet. I know you're listening intensively over there, but please, by all means, unmute. If you don't want to show your lovely face, then unmute and just you can ask the questions that you would like to know the answers to. Please, by all means. No question is silly. No questions? Wow, this is easy. Too easy. Okay. All right. Well, we just use this opportunity to welcome Louisa. Welcome on board, Louisa. We're so happy to have you here, and we hope that you're going to learn a lot, but more than that, actually do a lot. So you're going to be doing lots of deals, and this is just some of the guys and girls on the team. I've just seen some of them there. So guys, please, what are your questions? We've got 11 minutes. Utilize this time. Utilize it very well. Ask your questions. Type it in the chat or unmute yourself, and let's go through those questions. Otherwise, it's just going to be, I might as well have a consultation with just James then. James is just having a private consultation. That's brilliant.
I'm happy for that.
Okay, guys. Emily, questions for me? George, anything from you? Ursula? Wow, very quiet. There's no football today.
Sorry, I only just came back, so in the middle of a few things. No,
okay,
I'm okay, thank you.
Oh,
Thanks.
that's all, no problem. That's fine, that's fine. There's no football today, is there, James?
I don't watch football, so I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Do you have any other questions for me then, James?
Yeah. So I've been looking at quite a lot of kind of commercial to residential, as you know, and been kind of getting some of those things through. And I think the reason I asked that question at when I sent in the question about how do we quickly kind of analyze it, because I feel like every time I get a property, I don't know what it is, maybe it's just a mindset thing, but when it comes to commercial to resi, I see it as like this big deal. Yeah. And so I'm always a bit like panicked, as if to say, okay, what do I need to do to figure out if this is a deal kind of thing? Yeah. So obviously, I send it to you, and I want to get better at being able to just kind of assess it straight off the bat, rather than having to keep sending it to you all the time. Yes, yes. So just obviously you wrote back to me about that last one saying, look at the yield, because obviously it was part of it was commercial, the other half of it was flats above. Yes. And they still had tenants in them. So yes, you were saying about looking at the yield, working out the yield to see what the annual rent is, and to see if it's kind of worth kind of. Yeah. So are there any other kind of things like that I would need to apply to? So obviously yield is quite a major one.
It is a major one, because with commercial, you want to make as much money as you possibly can. Usually the commercial footprint you're looking at, converting it to resi is the best way. Seriously, that's one of the biggest things. That's one of the biggest jobs I did. One of my biggest projects that I did. I bought a commercial shop downstairs with offices above. It was just, the person was a print shop downstairs, and they were using upstairs to, for their offices, for their staff and stuff. So I was able to just go in there, refurbish the shop, and then rent it out quickly. Because with a commercial unit, you can be very clever with a commercial unit. If it's a big commercial unit, you can split it in half and rent it to 2 people and get more money than you'll get if you're renting it to 1 person. And the split in half could be just done with glass. You might have seen it. Some people just split a unit, they put glass in there, and then they put two people in there, and they're sharing. They don't even care. They're seeing each other because they're getting such a good rent, and it's in a very prominent place, so they don't mind. So you get that going on. Meanwhile, you're doing the work upstairs. So you insulate the ceiling. You insulate that ceiling so the noise doesn't disturb the shop, and then you carry on doing the work upstairs. And then the work upstairs is literally partitions. You're putting in partition walls. You're putting in, you're doing the wiring, the electrical wiring, you're doing some plumbing. And once you've done all those, you add so much value to that property that's where you make the money. You don't necessarily make the money on, because they've made the money already if it's already converted. So if you've seen something that's already converted, it's likely they're going to try and sell it to an end user. We're not end users, we are dealers, we're traders. We want to trade, and the trade is making us money. So if we trade a commercial property, for example, we should be charging between £5,000 and £25,000 to the potential buyer because of the value that can be added. But if they've already added the value, it's no good. So the idea, because when you get the commercial, how you do the commercial is you get the commercial empty, you immediately renovate the ground floor and put tenants in. I'm just talking from an investor point of view, how the investor will work. They buy the commercial unit, there's a whole unit. Straight away, the first thing you do is you convert the ground floor and make sure that's ready to let, and let that on a 10, 15 or 20-year lease. The reason you do that is because you're adding value to that property, because when you go to refinance, they say, have you got a lease? You go, yes. They go, how long is it for? You go, 20 years. They go, whoa, the value goes up like this, because they now look at the money coming in as a 20-year money rather than just a 1-year money. It's 20-year, that person signed up for 20 years. Then the upper units are offices, but you're going to convert those into resi. So you might buy it at 100K, but by the time you convert it to resi, it's now worth 400K, and you've only spent 100K. So you've added that much value, push that value up, because it's now residential. Residential is worth more than commercial. That's how it works. So if we can get commercial in that condition, even if it's got tenants in there, we can work something out with the tenants and, you know, let them go. It might be you're looking for people that are retiring. So someone that might be retiring, they've been running a business for 30 years, they now want to retire, they're tired now, they want a quiet life, they've got the building, they own the freehold. You want them to own that freehold. When they own the freehold, you can negotiate with them. Even if you give them a cut of the action, it's okay. So then what we can do is we'll go for planning permission. We can apply for planning permission. It might cost 4 to 5K to apply for planning permission. But remember, we use OPM, other people's money. We don't have to put that 5K down ourselves. We get an investor that's going to put that money in, because they're going to get their money back with interest. So you now say to them, look, you've got this property, I know you want to sell it, and I know you want 500K, but supposing I can give you 700K, would you be interested? I don't think they're going to say no. They'll be interested, and then you work with them and get the planning, because it's better to get the planning while it's still in their name, because it's easier. Because once you bought the property, I think you have to wait about a year or something before you can apply for planning. So if you can do the planning while they own it, you're ahead of the game. So what you do now is you work with them and say, look, this is what I want to do, explain the whole thing, get a legal document signed to say that this is what you're going to do. You're going to increase the value, you're going to sell it to one of your investors, and you're going to give them X. Then you apply for the planning, you get the planning. This is not something that's going to be done in 2 weeks or something. It could take 6 months, but it's worth it, because you're going to be looking at 100K profit or 200K profit. So once you've got the planning in place, you've gone through all the planning, it's been approved by the, the council have approved the planning. Now that property, instead of it being 500K, is now worth 700K, because you've got planning approved to add flats. And we know that the flats might do 300,000 or 400,000 on top, so it justifies, there's money there. So then you package that, and you can sell it on to an investor who would now invest in that property by buying it already with planning permission and then converting it to flats. That's where the money is made, as opposed to buying it already with flats, because the money is, they've maxed it out. They've maxed it out, and unless they're selling it cheap, well, why would they sell it cheap? If you've got flats, why are you going to sell it cheap? It doesn't make sense. doesn't make commercial sense to sell it cheap. It makes commercial sense to sell a whole building cheap if it's dilapidated or is in bad condition, because that's perfect and ripe for flats development, because you don't care what the condition of the inside of a commercial is, because you're going to plaster it all and board it out and partition and separate it and make it look nice and new. It'll look like a service accommodation by the time you finish. You look beautiful. And then that's why I say to focus on getting commercial units that are not converted into resi, because that's the route that we're going to go down. We apply for that planning, we get the planning, and we add that value and make a lot of money on the other side. It might take a few months, as I said, but the value is there. And those are where the big money, that's the big money. The low hanging fruit is those little deals where you do your packaging little deals for people. You can do those very quickly, a couple of hours, but the long-term ones that might take 3 months, 4 months, 6 months are those bigger deals. So those bigger deals, what your idea should be, you should focus on the little packaging so that you can use your 4K, 5K that you've made from there to invest in the planning, getting the planning permission for those other deals when you get those deals. And that's the thinking that should be going on, how you're thinking of doing it. So there's the small deals that you can do the packaging and, joint ventures with other people. And then there's the big deals, the way you're going to look for the commercial that can be converted into resi. So look for people that are just tired, they're fed up, their businesses come to an end, or they've moved. Since the pandemic, a lot of people have moved home. They've started working from home and they've got a spare, the building is spare. The building is just not doing anything. So if you can find those little gaps in the market, so to speak, then there's an opportunity there to do deals. And bring as many as you like, James. I will evaluate them all. I don't mind, because there's a lot of money there. It's worth the time. It's worth the time. So please bring them. I don't mind. And as you learn, you're learning more and more and more, and you get quicker and quicker. And as I say, birds of a feather stick together. As you speak to one person that's retiring, they might know someone else. My friend John's got a place. You can get referrals. You just keep getting referrals. So just focus on getting that first one, and the rest will follow. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. All right. Louisa says, thank you. I'm learning a lot. Oh, good. Thank you. That's lovely. All right. We have come to 8:30. I can't believe it. It's just been a consultation for James, but hey, James, you've been great. And everyone else has been fantastic for listening as well. I hope that's helped some of you think differently about how you can structure, do deals, and the kind of deals you could be looking for, and what to do, particularly when you see anything. You see a house, you see properties, you see service accommodation, etc. Basoli, you want to say something? Go on, sorry. And George, I've seen your hand raised as well. Okay, Basola's muted. All right, George, your hand's raised. Please speak.
Yes. Thanks a lot for your time, Ken. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly, yes.
Perfect. Just a quick question. You see, I know you can find what I'm really interested in. I think we've spoken about this before. Interested in deal packaging as well as assisted sale.
Yes.
But how can I find, aside from Zoopla and Rightmove, I know there are people probably struggling with paying off their mortgage and having like lawsuit with the bank and stuff like that. How can I find those type of people? Because I guess they're very motivated to selling their property. Is there a one-stop shop? Is there like a website or?
Not per se a website. One of the things you can do is advertise. You can advertise. You can post some things on social media if you need some help, but you do it in a gentle way. Post some things on LinkedIn. You've got to get people to find you rather than you're trying to struggle to find people. So literally advertise. You can advertise and say, look, if you're having it, just make it very gentle and easy. Don't make it hard. If you're having any trouble, you need some support. We're property consultants. We can help you. If you're stuck, you're trying to find a solution for your property challenge, we can help you out. That's one of the things that could be done. Another thing that could be done is you can write letters, for example, to the people that own HMO properties. As I've said earlier on, some people get tired. They become tired landlords, and it's you know what, I've had enough. But it's not that it's not a deal. It's just that they're tired now. I've been doing it for 30 years. I've had enough. But I just need to retire and just go fishing or something. So some people are like that. So you can do, if you Google HMO register in X. X is your area. You will get to a website. Because of the freedom of speech, you should be able to get the people's addresses, and then you can actually write directly to those people. Hi, I'm a property consultant, working in your local area. I just wanted to know if you've got any properties that you may be having a little bit of challenges with. I'm here to help you. Let's have a chat about it and see what we can do. So you can literally reach out to people by writing a letter. And I've taught you guys on the other trainings to use a thing called doc mail. You use doc mail. You don't physically have to write and go to the post office and put stamps and post. You use electronic. You do it electronically, so you can do it from your house, from your car, from your work, wherever you are. You write a letter, give it to doc mail, and they will post it for the same price it costs for a postage stamp. You'll get it written, printed, put in an envelope, and posted for you electronically. So then those that you can, send off 20, 30 letters in your lunch break. You literally write a letter, you can mail merge it. It will take all the letters, put it into a mail merge for you, put all the addresses in there, and it will send those letters for you to different addresses. But you can literally find those addresses online by just doing that search on HMO register, because these are people that have actually got HMOs. And then when you look on the HMO register, look at the ones that are about to expire. So the ones that are nearing expiry or have expired. There might be some that just expired. So they may be thinking of, you know what, I just want to sell this now because I can't be bothered to renew it. And it might be that you take that HMO and convert it back into a one house. Or it might be that there's flexibility there. Or they might have another property that they haven't even mentioned on the HMO that they're thinking of selling or doing something with. So these are some of the things that you can do to find motivated sellers, and also do things like your status on your WhatsApp, put your WhatsApp status there, have a signature on your email. So your personal emails, you can say, I'm a property consultant, I help people. If you know anybody, by all means, put their details over to me. I pay commission, whatever it takes to draw the traffic from everywhere you can to bring you problems. You want problems. When you get problems, you fix them, and that's where you make the deal. You don't expect the deal is just going to land on your lap like that. It needs to come as a problem, and then we sort that problem out, and then we make it into a deal. And that's how the things work. So you do everything you can. Facebook, you reach out to people that you know, your WhatsApp, your text messages, your emails, your social media status, your what's that thing called, Instagram. If you look at just go and look at my handles, you will see how I do it, and just copy what I do. That's it, and that works. So those are the things that you can do. I hope that helps, George.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. That helps.
You're welcome. Okay, if there's nothing else, we're going to wrap up. But I'm here a couple of more minutes. Any other questions? And please, guys, if you've got any challenges, please just reach out. You're in the group, you're in the WhatsApp group, post your questions on there, and we're all here to help each other. If someone else can't answer the question or whatever, one of my team will, or I will, and we just get it. So we need to just keep moving. We just keep moving. We're looking for deals. We're looking to close. We're looking to close deals. And just remember, it's like mining, or it's like not so much fishing. It's like prospecting. You know the gold is there, but if you stop mining for the gold, stop, shuffling through things that are not the gold, you're not going to find the gold. If you sit there with your arms folded looking at it, nothing's going to happen. If you get your sieve out and you're sieving, you're sifting. Oh, that's no good. Throw that one in. Oh, that's no good. Oh, that one looks all right. Give it a little clean. Turn it around. There's a deal here. So it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. It's not every single property you get is going to be a deal. And that's why I've always said to you guys, if you're doing it, do 4 and 5 at a time. Don't do one. Because if one gets sold, you're like, oh, it was sold. I missed it. But if you've got 4 or 5, it might put you under pressure because you're doing a lot more. Might be more beneficial for you because you might even get 2 deals out of it. But in the worst case, you get 1. So just keep remembering that and keep putting the word out, speaking to people, networking with people, any events that you go to. BMI is another thing that you can do, George. There's a BMI that's probably near you, where they have people that have got businesses, that you meet them, you tell them what you do, they tell you what you do. things like that. Just find, you know, events and things anywhere you go. Everyone should know what you do. When you know what you do, then, you know, there's no point keeping quiet about it. You need to tell people what you do and that you're here to help them, you know, and that's it. You're a solution provider. You're providing solution. Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Well, I think that's it. That's it for me. We've gone slightly over time. Ken Ajoku signing out. Remember, never stop learning because life never stops teaching. Make someone smile today, and always remember to look for problems because problems equals profits. All right, guys. God bless you. I will see you again the last Thursday of next month. If you need anything, by all means, post on our normal channels, and then we'll keep in touch and we'll keep going. All right, guys. Take care. God bless.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Ken. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night. Good night, everyone. Bye.